Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George Affleck.
And it's time for...
UnSpun, UnSpun.
Oh, wow! That is impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we were just talking before we went to shooting
I'm a little verklempt.
A little Star Wars chat.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, 52. 52. I should have
We made it every single week for the whole year, even when away on vacation.
Yes, and dying of diseases like you were.
That was awful.
Yeah.
I don't really remember those ones.
Had to edit a lot of coughs out.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I did. I had the worst. I had pneumonia. It was horrible.
And then you gave it to everybody in the office.
I did. I handed it kindly to our executive producer, Amanda.
Executive producer
yeah.
now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's
making the big bucks.
She is.
Finally.
Huge dollars. She's the highest paid one here.
I think so. 0 times 0 times 0.
Zero squared. Let's dive into Happy New Year. 2020.
Happy 2020.
Here we are.
So many things today. 52, the Star Wars.
Right.
New Year.
Did you like Star Wars? Let's do our review. No spoilers.
Yes.
You thought?
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm the kid who was 11 when the first Star Wars came out. So, and then it's a drive-in with my family. So Star Wars it represents a big part of my life because when I was a kid, unlike now with their Oculus things and all that stuff now, that was like watching, like being 3D. Like even at the drive-in, you're like, oh my God, I'm flying through the air. We're going into space. So this is amazing. So it has a certain personal meaning to me. But this was a good one for sure. I would say one of the better ones of the many that have been done since the original.
I found it so satisfying. Like you, 10 years old. My family happened to be vacationing in California when Star Wars premiered. We had no plans. I had never heard of Star Wars at that point, and my family just said, okay, we're going to the movies. And we went to the movie theater, sat down not knowing what we were going to watch, something called Star Wars.
Right.
My mom had to drag me out of the theater because I felt I was leaving my best friends behind. I fell in love with R2-D2. If you can believe it. It wasn't Luke Skywalker or Han Solo. For me, it was R2. I wanted a best friend who whistled and turned like that and was so smart and saved the day all the time, just in case I fell into a trash compactor. But it all wrapped up for me so beautifully in this one, and I feel really bad.
I just want to give away so many spoilers.
No spoilers, but I will say this: if you're a Star Wars fan who's reading the reviews and saying, you know what, I'm going to wait for it to come out on Disney Plus, I know one of those people. Don't do that. Go see it in a theater.
I never listened to reviews, strangely.
Oddly,
and this is a good transition potentially.
Yes, it is.
Because I don't really want to be influenced, and I have my opinions of movies, and sometimes people will go, you like that movie? And go, yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes my expectations of movies is really, really low for films.
Yeah.
For human beings, sometimes a bit higher.
A little bit, unless you're on Twitter. How's that?
And then,
ta-da! What about this? And you actually found this and put it forward. I saw it on your Twitter about Justin Trudeau basically being captured in a photo that he didn't know he was in. Somebody in a lineup at the bar or
he was at a grocery store on his vacations in South America or Central America, and Costa Rica, I believe. And he was. It looks like he was buying a couple 6-packs. What you doing? He hadn't shaven for a couple. Seriously, I don't even shave now. It's like I can't be bothered. I'm on vacation.
You should see me on vacation. Wait, go back to episode 42, and you'll see me on vacation with no makeup on a patio.
Right. And you have a full beard now.
I do. I have a little mustache. Sideburns,
Anyway, so this, I just thought this was a new low of really, and it also was like, so somebody obviously took a picture with their phone kind of low in a lineup and got the shot of him purchasing whatever it was he was purchasing, put that on Twitter, made some comment, and then it started getting reused over and over in various forms in a really derogatory,
creepy,
gross, get over it,
attacking way. The one that I saw was he has substance abuse problems. Look at him. And I was like, what? What did somebody? And I didn't even look at the profile of the person. Is it a bot? Is it a team of people that are just trying to, move the negativity on social media, as we've seen influence politics in the United States? It's gross and vicious.
And it's happening, and it's going to be. And it's an election year in the States. And are we heading this direction now with Canada? It really was sort of disappointing to see that. I think that really, really discourages anybody from wanting to get into politics. I know, having been in politics and even out of politics, the amount of,
blowback on nothing.
But also just that people are watching you. And so for example, when you're in an office, you generally, if you're at a function, you either don't drink at all, or if there's photos being taken, you put the drink. You see a lot of politicians with their one arm behind their back because they're holding their glass of wine, their cocktail, so they don't get in the shot. So it's one of the sort of lessons in politics, and it's sort of, kind of weird that you have to worry about that. But drinking seems like be a real big issue to people and their perception of you in politics. And so even going to the bar, having a beer with my friends, I'll often be thinking, okay. And I think at one time Amanda we were out and she said, okay, you've had enough.
Right.
You're starting to
You're
talk.
Cut off there.
You're starting to be a bit too obnoxious. And people are listening around us, and you're an elected official. And so luckily I have Amanda on 365. Watching me.
She's your watchdog for sure.
So, but it's also like, really? I have to worry about this stuff? I mean, but it's something you have to worry about.
And
so this was a new low,
right?
I thought.
But that's just it. Like, going on vacation, he's in Costa Rica, for crying out loud, buying a 6-pack. Leave him alone.
I think it was New Year's Day. I mean, it was like New Year's Eve.
Leave him alone. And you would want to be left alone. I would want to be left alone. You would want to be, it's not that he's out, dancing on the banquette at 1 a.m, dressed inappropriately, or perhaps, adorning something he shouldn't. We've done that.
Lots of photos of that.
We've done that.
But we know how low it can go for Trudeau.
It's leapt into a new space in that regard, I think. I think there's just this.
Yeah, there is a strategic decision by somebody somewhere. This is not, I don't think, something that's just happened by accident.
No, it's not
this
unique
photo
for
was
sure.
Used and then found, and now is being pushed out there through various channels, whether they be bots or people who are strategically involved in trying to,
war rooms, back rooms, whatever, hired by somebody to do that, find ways to discredit. Because if you find people that only consume their news online, they might just see a headline and assume the headline's true and then perpetuate that, because that's kind of where we're going. If you want to find a reason to divide, you can certainly find it on social media. It's ever more divisive. Actually, you found that tweet by Ricky Gervais from, what was it, Christmas?
Yeah, just before Christmas. I like this one because it makes me think a lot. I'll read the tweet. It used to be considered reasonable to listen and try to understand both sides of an argument. But now, if opposing extremists are screaming at each other, you don't agree 100% with either, you're considered the enemy of both. It's why many people are afraid to contribute at all. And I think that goes for politics, why people aren't getting into politics. It's part of the reason I got out of politics a little bit, because I didn't really like the exposure for me and my family and the opportunity maybe to run for mayor. I mean, mayor was kind of like, I don't know if I want that kind of exposure. It certainly was in the basket of pros and cons of to do it or not. And I think a lot of people, because when I get approached, when I meet somebody, I think, oh man, this person would be an awesome elected person in whatever level.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no way, man, I don't want to get that kind of exposure.
I think I might have said that to you when we first went for lunch, and you're like, so what are you going to do next? And I'm like, I don't know, this and that and that and this. And you're like, well, maybe you get into politics. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, hell no.
It's
exactly. Next level. And I'm in broadcast where there's already that discerning piece. And, I've had uncomfortable followed situations. I have had unwanted attention. I've also had excellent attention from wonderful fans and supporters and people who really enjoy what I do. But those who don't tend to be creepy. Creepy is the word.
Well, I think you have your column, which is called The Middle for the Orca, which is exactly, I think, what Ricky's talking about. It's like, why we have these two extremes now, and people are afraid to get involved or to be a part of the conversation because it suddenly goes off and they get trampled or they get destroyed. Or Amanda really needs to cough. I can
go ahead, cough. Do it.
There we go.
There we go.
Live on tape.
That's it.
Amanda's
One take
cough.
wonders.
She
right
is
here.
a human. She's here.
You want some water? 42. 43?
43. We'll get to that in a minute.
43, yeah.
We'll get to that in a minute. So, and then I got a little taste of that today when I put out I tweeted about a column that this guy had written about climate activists and
climate
extremists
scientists
and climate
pushing
scientists.
back on the extremist activists, which I found
That's
to
right.
be a very interesting read, and one that I think needs to be discussed.
And I put it out there as that. I wasn't saying I'm a climate denier.
No.
I don't even think this
You're
person,
not a
he
climate
was
denier.
saying that he wasn't a climate denier. Yeah. He was saying what we have to think about is all the different aspects of the economy. You know, he talked about, he put some really out there scenarios, like if you were to have more coal burning in India, for example, the economy would improve and the prosperity would lead to less birth rates. You know, this is a theory he's putting out there. He's not saying we should do this, but it's something you need to think about when you're designing policies, building policies as governments about how do we solve this climate problem. It's not just a simple, no more oil and gas. We can't, that's just, that's it.
And that'll fix it, right?
We have to look at all aspects of how we deal with this, while also, and we are doing it in Vancouver especially, where we're, for example, requiring that buildings have, in the lower spaces like on the Falls Creek Flats, where they have to be prepared for flooding,
right.
And prepared for oceans rising. And so all buildings on the lower parts of Vancouver have to be built to these standards that are strict and required. And so, you know, there are things we're doing to deal with the potential inevitability of this climate crisis that we have.
Not a denier. Did you see that?
Yeah, but we need to we have to deal with the problem, but also and try to find a solution at the same time. And that's what the article was about.
So going back to the fact that you tweeted that article and then because I was like, hey, cool. And then I came back to my Twitter an hour later and you were being inundated.
Ironically, attacked.
By extremists.
By extremists.
Thank you for proving George's point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to say at George_Affleck. George_Affleck if you're finding him on Twitter.
Yes.
At UnSpun Podcast. I'm at Jody Vance, Jody with a Y, Vance on Twitter. And you can find what we're talking about if you want to see that tweet storm from this morning. So that would be
I actually jumped out of it.
Thursday morning. You had to mute that one guy?
Yeah,
what the hell?
Yeah, sometimes you just got to say, I don't block anybody, but sometimes I mute them because I'm like, okay, you know what? Ugh. This conversation is going nowhere, and now you're abusing me with swear words. Forget it. I'm not taking that shit.
Yeah, I had to actually mute one.
Ironically, there, I had to swear to get to my point about swearing.
The first swear of 2020. I had to mute a conversation as well with a bunch of people, including yourself and Sandy Garacino and Mo Amir Van Keller. I had to mute on it because the argument back and forth on something that the point was, I felt, made long ago, and the back and forth and the people started moving towards their corners and just sort of lobbing at each other on ride sharing. It was Mo Amir and
Mo started this. He lobbed it out there.
He did.
He lobbed something out there.
He said it, hot take. Right?
Yeah,
and when you throw down a hot take, you got to be ready for some heat.
Yeah.
Right? And the hot take was ride sharing and ride hailing is taking up too much space in our news cycle.
It's not as big a deal as it's getting by government policymakers, basically.
And I said I disagree.
And I tweeted back saying, from my point of view, safety of the residents of our city is a priority of government. Certainly civic government, 100% a priority. Policing is the priority of civic governments. And so ride sharing, in my opinion, is part of the mix, and as well as transportation infrastructure. So I made those 2 points, saying that the requirement of policy making and priorities, safety and getting around are two of the top most important things that we do, along with building. And those are the three things we do as government, and especially in civic government. And I said, so how do you not make that a priority? Why is that not a priority for government and a priority for media's attention? I don't understand how you can say that.
And then a roll call of men said, this is not security issue, this is not a security issue, this is not a security issue. And then Sandy Garacino, former trial lawyer and a columnist with the National Observer.
And also very involved in the taxi industry herself. She owned a taxi company.
There you go.
Back in the day, yes.
And also a huge proponent of finding a way to get home, because her daughter at one point years back was down on Granville Mall on, I think it was a New Year's Eve situation, or it was a big night out regardless.
Yep.
And her daughter admittedly had a lot to drink, wasn't driving, was dressed in a way that was not appropriate for the weather. There was quite a profound tweet that she had laid down, and
crazy.
Taxi drivers were not picking her up. They were going right by her because she was clearly drunk. She couldn't get home. She was trying to get home, and she couldn't get home. There was no option to take transit. And then one cab driver, because everybody's talking about security of ride hailing, one cab driver allegedly stopped and said, I'll get you home if you perform fellatio on me. And obviously she said no, but then said who her mother was, and then the cab driver took her home, dropped her off, and didn't charge her, and left. And in Sandy Garasino's tweet, it says, "We don't know which cab company that was because clearly my daughter was drunk." But thank God, at least somebody stopped, even though it was creepy and gross. And it's when people are saying, well, Uber and Lyft, there's danger there. There's danger everywhere. And what there is really, truly danger is when there's a single woman in particular, late at night, in the dark, standing on a street corner with no option to get home.
And there was, if you looked at Twitter on that night and Facebook and Instagram, you'll see so many posts from people, a lot of women, young women, who couldn't get a ride home.
Yeah.
And then I saw one, she said, well, and this is unrelated to this, but I just saw it in my stream. Well, it's 3 a.m, I'm just going to walk home. I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah. With no one to call, because it's like, well, at that point, what do you do? Or do we start calling 911? Do we start calling the non-emergency number and saying, I can't get home?
Yeah.
And I don't have an option to walk there. That, like, 24-hour transit people, that was what I added to the van color conversation that Mo started.
Yes,
was if we can't get it done, if we can't get ride-hailing done, if this politicking is going to continue, then let's do the transit. It has to happen.
Well,
I don't care when your
can't do
updates
transit
and repairs
overnight,
happen.
though. It takes years to build. So
we
have to find stopgaps. Right now, ride sharing, and everybody can, it's not financially viable. It's bad for the environment. Okay, but we don't have the Broadway line yet. We don't have a train that goes across Granville Bridge. We don't have we have very little public transportation in the city of Vancouver, or in the region especially.
Yeah, in the region
and it
is
takes
even worse.
years to build this stuff. So we have an opportunity, and it may be a window that this Uber thing exists. I don't know. I don't care. I just want us to get going and provide the ways to get people to get home.
Yeah, because people are like, you love Uber and Lyft. I'm like, I've never used either, but I want to get a cab. And if other people can get their Uber and Lyft, I'll be able to get a cab. And the boundaries should come down for cabs immediately.
I live Uber. I mean, what?
But that can happen immediately, right?
Influenced by this. I mean, this is public policy making that is required. That the policymakers need to decide on how to best provide safety to their residents and the citizens of their cities and region. And ride sharing right now is one of the ones that they can do that. And guess what? Hey, it was going to be ready by Christmas. Oh, no.
No.
Anyway,
but the boundaries could have come down for cabs before Christmas. That could have easily happened in one fail swoop. Just say, you know what? The boundaries are now down. Cabs can take everybody anywhere, rides anytime. It would have solved the problem immediately. As soon as we knew that ride hailing was not going to be here by Christmas and then not by New Year's Eve, those boundaries could have happened in a day.
Yeah, although you have to worry about the suburbs losing a lot of their cabs, getting their people around their suburbs too.
Just start somewhere, man. Like, we gotta stop. Let's do a study on it first.
The analogy I always bring up: we had no problem having hundreds of marijuana places open across the city, and it's completely illegal. To make a point at that time that this should be allowed, the federal government changed the regulations, allowed marijuana across the country. Now we're down to 5 marijuana shops in Vancouver, from 175.
There were so many.
So I mean, you have this.
I think I had 12 in a 7-block radius of my house on the west side.
But it made a point.
Yeah.
Even though I was against it because I predicted what would happen. But we have this rideshare system. We have it, and there are arguments against the environment. There's arguments about safety and ride sharing. But at this point in time, when you have people, women especially, who are, as you have described, and we hear and see these tweets from people stuck on Granville Street or stuck in the middle of the suburbs, wherever, can't get home,
back to the suburbs.
This is not.
Unacceptable.
It's not good governance on the part of the provincial and local governments.
Let's talk total off topic of ride hailing and ride sharing and Twitter and whatnot. BC assessments came out.
Yes.
We record on Thursdays. It is Thursday. It was in my mailbox. I had looked at it yesterday.
I went online.
Yeah, me too. So how much are you down?
I'm down 12%.
I'm I'd probably be 12% too.
So, I mean,
will our property taxes then fall?
Guess what? This is what I always find funny. People don't understand sometimes the property tax, and so, no. The short answer is no, because the budget is the budget and property tax is the property tax. So the city of Vancouver still needs $1.6 billion, their operating budget this year, as Vancouver as an example. But property value, $1.6 billion. So that's an increase not on the operating, but increase in tax revenue of 7%, as was approved in December so 7% up in property tax increases to a home that is now worth potentially 10 or more % less.
Less.
So
and when our homes were exponentially increasing in value, the property taxes were going up.
Yeah. Well, no, the
associated to the value.
Again, the property,
the assessed value.
Yeah, the budget's the budget. You know, they need this much money. The way you get that money is
but it doesn't go down when
everybody gets their tax bill, and you have in Vancouver we have averaging, which some people say is not good, some people bad, but it kind of levels the playing field across the board. Other cities don't have averaging, so they have to, when your taxes go up, and they go down, they go all over them.
So go back to the original point because I don't think I got it.
Sure.
Taxes are directly, because it's a percentage of the assessed value of your home in July that is the following year what your
yes, but the
property
budget
tax
they still need the same amount of money. So how the assessment will work is there's definitely no correlation. It's a volume game. So you have so many units in a city and you have this much money. So the number of units in the city and the taxation and the revenue required doesn't change. You still have, let's say you have 1,000 homes and you need $1 billion. That's $1 billion divided by 1,000, and that's how I get my money.
Yeah.
Kind of. That's a really simplistic
I get
version.
What you're saying. I get
so
what you're saying.
Even the value of those 1,000 homes goes up 10%, goes down 10%. That doesn't affect the money that they need, the $1.6 billion they need. Now they get $70 million from parking, and they get this money comes from all sorts of sources, but around, I think it's $700 million or $800 million come from property taxes, and so they need that money. And
but when the value of the house goes down, the cost of your property tax is not going to go down.
You still
with
pay.
it.
You'll still have to pay the same amount of tax.
Right. That's quite
because they still need that money. They can't. So it's just the ratio may change, but they still need the cash. The city needs the cash.
To do the things.
To do whatever the heck they're doing. That's the big, well, the 43 communication staff. We need to pay them somehow.
We need to pay those people somehow.
That $5 million, $6 million budget,
Tell me.
Yeah.
I mean, we could get
what happened
into
to our vodka from before
That was
Christmas?
gin. It was gin, rhubarb.
Gin.
It's dry January, George.
Dry
it's water now.
It's
It's water now. It's detox time. So values, taxes, assessments, people getting their. I mean, for those of us who weren't planning on selling our homes anyway, the fluctuations in the market aren't devastating, but I think when I look at my BC assessment, I think of the people that bought their homes 2 years ago and are now staring down, maybe having lost.
Well, yeah, if they're trying to, if they for whatever
$100,000.
reason they have to move.
Yeah.
I mean, the assessment isn't always necessarily related to the actual market value.
But close.
But it certainly hurts, and I think that if you bought in, and now you're last year, and then suddenly you have to move because your job changed, you have to move to Toronto or somewhere, that sucks.
Yeah.
So, this is the game that the provincial government's playing now. They wanted to dampen the economy and dampen the price of homes, and they succeeded briefly. I would say that next year you'll see them jump again, but back 10%. These are numbers based on what happened last year.
Right.
And so we're seeing now the market heating up again, and so you'll see those numbers jump again probably in a year. So if anybody owns a place right now and is thinking of selling, it's probably a good idea to wait.
Pause. Hit pause. What about those who have been dealing with trapped in the affordability crisis when it comes to housing? Because it doesn't feel to me, a year into doing UnSpun podcast with you, that a whole bunch of affordable housing
No, we're
stock
behind
is
track.
hit.
We're behind
What's
the goal.
the holdup, George Affleck?
Well, it's basically City Hall's work like first in. It's basically a lineup system.
Doesn't affordable housing jump the queue
in Vancouver?
In a crisis?
Really, the only queue that we have that jumps it is the Rental 100 program, which is market rental housing, and there is no priority given to, say, housing that you can build quicker. So let's say I have a developer who wants to build a social housing or a market rental that I don't want to be part of Rental 100. It's a 3-story walk-up. It's got 15 units in it. Take me about a year and a half to build.
Right.
We're seeing
I
don't get a priority.
25th
I don't get
in
to jump
Cambie.
the queue for that.
25th in Cambie.
Yeah.
I'm driving down Cambie, taking Brady to his dad's house, and I'm like, all of these buildings are what I'm talking about every time. Yeah. And they went up fast.
A lot of those condos, but yeah, those were
why can't we do
6-story,
stuff like that?
a lot of concrete, but they were built quickly, and that's the thing that what I'm concerned about with the city plan in Vancouver and this $20 million we're spending on the city plan. We had 5 community plans that laid out the plans for those neighborhoods. To me, the priority then should have gone to staffing and getting the zoning and getting the permits and getting the stuff built in those places where we've already pre-approved what can be built there with community consultation done, checked off, done. So you don't have to go through this process. And so in the Cambie corridor, there's 3 community plans that are related to the Cambie area and all of them, the third version of that is very, very sort of gentle density designed
That's the one
housing.
I see.
Yeah, that's the one you see basically from 12th Avenue all the way up and then sort of chunks of Cambie Street.
Yeah, but it goes across 25th between Canby and Main Street, really. There are a bunch of them that are 3-4 stories there that are just like, they're great.
Wood structure, they can be built in a year and a half, limited parking. These are the things that they should be prioritized, especially if they're with developers. And we've talked about this, and they still haven't really done it, which is like a nexus system, like we have for crossing the border. For developers who have great reputations, give them, let them go, build.
So I think that will be our battle cry for 2020, is to clean up the permitting office. That is a thing. That it needs to be reorganized. The 43 communications people might need to branch out and dive through some permitting requests.
Yeah, well, I think there's also the approval process from the city, from council itself. They have to speed up their process, and clearly we've seen that not happening.
Oh no, that's not happening.
And they have the whole, townhouse and the duplex, stuff that they brought in that might help.
Laneway housing.
But they still have this backlog at staff. And when I was there, we actually added a lot of money to bringing in more staff. But it's actually really hard to find good staff, or any staff, to work at City Hall in Vancouver, because it's so expensive here. So those junior planning staff coming in from, they just go, I can make the same amount of money in Delta as I can make in Vancouver working for City Hall. Why would I want to
come all the way in here,
come in, or even try to live there? So it's a real dilemma for the HR department to find good people, even if the money is there. So I would say that there's a lot of things that the staff, that council could do by getting rid of a lot of the policies that are slowing things down. Like, take a look at that. There's Gil Kelly, who's the city head of planning, he's shown us the redundancies of policies that exist. That should be in the priority of council. That, looking at that list and going, okay, let's get rid of 50% of these. That would take a year potentially, and then you've sped up the process significantly.
Exponentially. And then maybe you could pay attention to, I don't know, drawing road markings that actually reflect.
Wait a minute, I read that somewhere. Was it Daily Hive? No.
No,
I'm kidding.
But it was Carm who
posted something.
And that was my aha moment. I'm like, it's not just me and my bad eyesight. I was almost in the most catastrophic of car accidents on the Tuesday before Christmas, and it was there were 4 of us who we literally, George and I, if you're watching, you can see my hands. I'm doing like maybe a little bit more than a centimeter on its way to an inch with both. We came within that much of all 4 of us hitting this one guy who just pulled out into the street and thought he was going into a lane that was closest to the curb, and we were driving in the lanes closest to the curb and the center lane, and we all just came. I've never slammed my brakes on so hard and braced for the worst, and then as soon as I realized I've come within an inch of hitting this guy and I didn't, I looked behind me and I looked over my shoulder and I'm like, oh my God, all these other ones are gonna hit me, and we all looked at each other, and we. By the grace of I don't know what, was stopped. And then we all drove off on our own, didn't even get out of our cars, and I was just adrenaline, heart pounding, oh my gosh, what just happened? And I realized I couldn't see anything. I was doing the speed limit. I was maybe doing under the speed limit. I was going along Cornwall Avenue. It was about 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, pouring buckets rain. It was dark and blurry and you can't see the lines on the road. You just can't see them. The environmentally friendly, greenest paint we can find is not what we need on our roadways. We need reflective. Don't do more
but wait,
tests on it.
We have other things that are a priority at City Hall, like
like what?
Like if these aren't priorities, and sidewalks that you don't trip and fall on, which is another one I've seen in the last couple of days, people tweeting stuff like that.
Oh, I just reported one. I just reported the sidewalk in front of my house, in fact.
It's just, and you see them. I was actually, where was I? In Burnaby, actually, and here in Vancouver they put the black,
black top
on to fix sidewalks. In Burnaby, they actually grinded the sidewalks down. They try to keep them even. They work a little hard. They actually prioritize this stuff in Burnaby.
Do you want to know what they did in front of our house 2 years ago? They came and replaced 2/3 of the sidewalk on our block and stopped at the real problem. And you were already there. You were doing it. And we actually said, why are you stopping here? And they said, that's what the requisition is for, just to hear. And I'm like,
you think your requisition might have been wrong?
And it's a puddle 6 months of the year, and it's a tripping hazard for the people who are walking to and from the park or the school in our neighborhood. It's like,
I've asked staff, and I've talked about this before. You know how much money they would need to actually fix all of those things in the city?
How much money?
About $2 or $3 million extra a year to take care of most of the problems we have on our sidewalks.
Get out. Get out.
Yeah. But road lines that would be a big budget item. But I would think that to
well, let's start somewhere with that big item, because maybe we aren't the crappiest drivers on the planet. Maybe we just can't see the road.
So read
markings.
More about this
on the middle.
column,
yes,
which,
the middle of the road this week at the orca.ca.
Middle everywhere, please. Enough of this extremism.
Yeah, let's try and do that. A nice, kinder, gentler 2020. That's it for us.
Thanks.